Ever since he could walk, I think he was kicking something, you know. Always got a ball at his feet.
Obviously, growing up with three older brothers, you're at that age where you're watching them and you can't really join in because you're too young, but you want to. But you wait till you're old enough, and then it's into the front garden and having a game with your brothers, really. So from quite a young age, there was always footballs lying around the house. So it was, I sort of brought up with it. Wandering up and down, having a look out the windows. And yeah, it's a stadium pitch.
What do you remember most about school football then?
You always just look forward to the day, really, when you've got a game at the end of your lessons, or you missed a couple of lessons because you've got a football game. So it's always a big bonus to be playing after school, because I'm sure everyone here looks forward to it, don't they? So it's good to represent your school, because especially William Parker, to be playing for this school, it's a good achievement in itself, because so many good players around. There's a number of London clubs as well.
Well, he came to us, you know, via one of our scouts that we had at the club then, and you know, like a lot of these boys, you know, it's mainly through the schools, you know, that they're noticed.
When Gareth came, we weren't a sports college. I mean, sport's always been very important at the school. It's always had a good tradition of producing good footballers, right back to Kevin Ball, obviously, who was at Portsmouth and Sunderland. And we've had a number of pros at Brighton.
Yeah, school level was always fine. Football didn't really interrupt too much, really. Obviously, some days you're rushing home to go over to Eastbourne to train for Brighton, and some obviously playing for your school, you're just doing your work and then playing afterwards.
Gareth played for some successful sides during his time in education. He won the under-16 schools trophy final, and that gave him an early taste of European football as the William Parker school team travelled abroad to face the equivalent champions of Italy.
Yeah, it was a great achievement for the school, and it sort of gave myself a little bit of taste, because there was a bit of publicity about it. As you say, there was a match on television. It showed it. There was a few reporters wanting interviews after the game. It's sort of give you a little bit of taste of what it's all about at that football level.
I saw the Sussex schools final that Gareth played in. Again, a lot of the squad we had at that particular time represented Sussex schools, so they were a particularly good squad, along with the likes of Michael Standing, who represented England as well.
Brighton's not a huge club compared with the clubs we were playing. We were playing the Arsenals, the Tottenhams, all the London sides. And I think at our age we were as good as anybody. I think one year we only lost. I think we actually lost to Wimbledon. It was the only game we lost all season. So we had a very good. Our Sussex team was also very strong. It was just one of those years where we got a lot of good players at once.
Indeed, it didn't take long for him to attract attention from other clubs, and it was decided through some protracted transfer bargaining that Gareth and fellow teammate Michael Standing should make the move to the Midlands and into the academy at Villa.
My last year at school, I improved quite a lot. I was playing well for Brighton. I was playing well for my county, Sussex. So there was a lot of scouts that come and watch you at that age. So obviously I had the opportunity to stay at Brighton. They offered me a contract. Then there's a few London clubs. I think Crystal Palace. I think Chelsea were one. Arsenal. So there was probably a choice of 5 or 6 clubs where I could have gone and done my youth, YTS as it was then.
At the time, I spoke to quite a few clubs. I'd been to Everton, I'd been to West Ham, I was playing for England schoolboys at the time, so I had pretty much a pick of anywhere
He was recommended to us by a scout down in the south of England, a chap called Alfie Abs, who used to work for us. And he said, I know the family quite well. I've got this left-sided player who I think is decent. I'm not sure, will you come down and have a look? Well, if I have to, I suppose I better pop down. And I saw him 2 or 3 times playing for the Sussex County side.
I didn't see him play at Brighton. He came on trial here along with Michael Standing and J. Lloyd Samuel. And the 3 of them were outstanding, and we decided, to sign them. Lucky for us, because I think if he'd gone somewhere else, it would have been a major difficulty.
I was glad that he went farther away from his home environment, because then you're fully focused on football 7 days a week. I'm glad he went there instead of a London club.
I think my mum and dad felt if you got that far away, at least you would move properly. Whereas I think if we both gone to London clubs or stayed at Brighton, maybe your concentration wouldn't be the same, because you'd obviously, if I'd gone to West Ham, I'd been home all the time.
It was always a hard one. You know, you just finished school and suddenly moving away from your family that you've obviously lived with for 16 years is a big step. But in terms of footballing, I enjoyed my week's trial up there. It seemed a friendly place, and I felt I had a good chance of breaking through. But I just say the biggest step is always moving away from your family.
He was one of those that, all right, he was 2.5 hours from home, settled straight in, never had a problem with homesickness. A very, very mature 15-year-old, to be fair.
Hastings teenager Gareth Barry made his full reserve debut for Aston Villa last week.
When Gareth first came into the fold, it was like, who's this youngster? He's not bad at all. I know initially he had to be left out a few games because obviously he was young and didn't want the old burnout thing, but Gareth always caught the eye to begin with because he was so comfortable in the situation, so comfortable playing with older established players.
What impressed the senior pros with Gareth was that he just got on with it. He was very down to earth, played his game, very solid, dependable midfielder, and always willing to listen and learn, and got on with the senior pros as well as he did of the lads of his own age.
The moment I stepped foot at Aston Villa, the youth coaches, they deserve a lot of credit for the work they do. They give you that confidence. They tell you to play the game in the right way, and as you say, I learnt a lot very quickly. So yeah, it was great, and obviously they showed faith in me because they pushed me into the youth team quite early, and then reserves.
Every time he moved up, he excelled. So I don't think there was ever a time where every time he got moved on, they thought, oh, he's comfortable here.
I mean, Gareth did very well quite quickly. It's not always the case with young lads. Sometimes they take 2, 3, 4 years. But Gareth is a big lad. Physically, he's a big lad. And like I say, because he was willing to listen and learn, he put himself up there quite early on.
I think the first game I saw Gareth playing was a FA Youth Cup game over at Derby County, and we played a 3 at the back, 3 centre halves, and Gareth was left side of the 3 centre halves, and he was absolutely fantastic. And he was spraying the ball all over the place, defended well, and he just looked then that he was going to go all the way.
Very hard to assess, especially when it's your own boy, to say, oh, he's going to go farther. Because I thought there was a lot of good boys. Even when he went to Villa, I thought there was, and they were from all over only from this country, from abroad as well. So it was very difficult to assess how good he was going to be.
A career in football had just begun, and things were going to get even better. After sitting on the bench for a home match with West Ham in April, he was given his debut, coming on as a substitute in a 3-1 victory at Hillsborough against Sheffield Wednesday.
Even after 6 months, when Brian Little was still manager, he asked me to travel to a game I think it was around Christmas time, so it just gives you a little taste of what it's like to be around the first team and the atmosphere at the games.
At the time we were, he had the opportunity of being able to play him because of the way the team was going at the time, and I think it worked out for all of us. I think he complemented Hugo Ehiog and Gareth Southgate very, very well. Obviously being a natural left-sider. And I just think it was made easy for John in many ways because he was that good and he was that outstanding that they had to pick him.
Fair play to John Gregory, who worked under Brian anyway, so knew the animal, for want of a better word, and was quite prepared very early to throw him in, and I think he made his debut at 17. as a left-sided centre-half of 3.
Probably a good move from John Gregory, blooding him towards the end of that season, giving him a couple of games, seeing what it was like, and then Gareth, could go off on holiday and look forward to a full season being involved in the squad, and that's what he did.
I didn't really think about it too much, to be fair. I think that's the right way you need to go about it. Enjoy your football, and then if you do well, the rewards will come with it. And lucky for me, they come quickly.
Do you remember your debut?
Yes, I remember the debut, but somebody told me today that I come on for you. I didn't know that.
I wanted to be the one that told you that.
Somebody told me, so...
yeah, it was Sheffield Wednesday away,
yeah.
3-1 win.
I think they needed some young legs coming on, some old ones. So,
I wasn't so old then, to be honest. But yeah, certainly Ian Taylor came off and young Gareth Barry came on. And I heard that we scored virtually straight away when he came on as well, which was nice.
A good substitution. No, it was, I still think to that day that probably the most nervous I've ever been, making your debut. Big Premier League game, and back then Sheffield Wednesday were filling out at Hillsborough, so it was a nice place to make my debut, and my parents had travelled up because they heard I might be on the substitutes bench, so as you say, it's nice to replace a Villa legend on your debut.
An excellent debut for Gareth Barry, a superb win for Aston Villa.
Because we've been to a few other games before, and he's never got on. When he said he was on the bench, we went to Sheffield, and when I saw him standing there just after half time on the line, I didn't know how I felt. I don't know.
Ian Taylor picked up a slight injury, so he was sort of hobbling off, but yeah, sort of shook his hand and he said sort of good luck. And there's big names on the Villa bench that day. I remember Stan Collymore was there as well, so they sort of threw me on in front of players like that. It was, but that he was great about it as well. Stan Collymore, he wished me all the best, and obviously the managers just said go and enjoy it, so it sort of calms you down a bit.
Gareth's debut was really amazing because having happened only just 1 year after he'd left the school, we still had 800 boys in the school and most of the staff who'd known him as a student in the school and known him as a friend, and to see him on television playing in the Premiership was incredible. And so he became a real icon, I think, for the students in the school.
Yeah, to this day, that would be the most nerve-wracking I've been in terms of playing football. You're not experienced that. There 35, 40,000 people at Hillsborough there was. Obviously Premiership points at stake. We were challenging for a European place. So yes, sort of 17-year-old just turned 17. Waiting to go on to a Premiership game was quite worrying, really.
When you're in a dressing room, you can usually tell people that are very nervous or very shy. Gareth was just sort of quietly confident that his ability, his preparation and his focus had got him to this point. And that playing at, whether it be Hillsborough, Villa Park, Old Trafford, Wembley, are all pretty much the same for him. So I'm sure that Gareth, before the game, he'll tell you himself, I'm sure he was very nervous, but also he prepared himself to the point whereby it was just a case of going out and doing his job.
So with the debut under his belt, the team returned to Villa Park, and on the final day of the season, Gareth was given his first start for the club and his first taste of the Villa Park faithful. It was a dream beginning to his Villa career as they defeated the newly crowned champions 1-0, finishing the season in a European qualifying 7th position.
York against Seaman. Oh, monstrous!
Stepping out at Villa Park, it was I wasn't as nervous as the week before. Sort of settled in a bit and sort of went out there and enjoyed it. And obviously we won the game 1-0, and that gave me a lot of confidence over the summer, preparing to come back for pre-season.
Check from Ray Parland. White wants it, White gets it. White finds Grimandi. Excellent football by Arsenal. Grimandi on the run, and it took an excellent checking tackle from the debutants, Gareth Barry, to stop him in his tracks.
Gabriel Agbonlahor, Craig Gardner, Isaiah Osborne and of course Barry are products of the Villa Youth Academy who graduated into the current first team. An unprecedented and unmatched amount of first team homegrown talent. But it's not been a recent story. It's been a conveyor belt of talent for nearly 15 years. So why are Villa so good at cultivating their youth players into first-team stars?
I've just got a great team that works underneath me. I mean, all we can do really is identify talent. You then rely on, obviously, their own individual attitude, which is vitally important. And we've already said Gareth had that in place. But the coaching team, Tony McAndrew, Gordon Cowlands, Kevin McDonald, Steve Burns, and the part-time people, they are top quality coaches, and they've helped develop those young players into first-team players.
Every club now you go to seemingly has an academy, and it's like 40 or 50 players and great facilities. That wasn't always the case, but Villa were always quite renowned for having an academy whereby at least the structure was in place to bring young kids through. I've always bemoaned, I had to go and play in different parts of the country before I came back to my hometown club. Birmingham, city of a couple of million people, isn't taking in enough players locally or nationally, utilising their talent, bringing them through into the first team. They've always had to go and buy players. The fact that Gareth has come through and cost them next to nothing, it just highlights how important the academy structure is.
The academy at Aston Villa is definitely in the top 3 in the country. Some would say by the products it's had it would be the top 1, and they've done extremely well. I know when I first came into the club there was a concern that they'd been put to one side, that their interests weren't actually being looked at. If there's anything I would pride myself on my second spell at Aston Villa, there's not a lot, believe me, but if there was something, it was being able to bring the academy and the staff of the academy and the senior things back together again, and they've done extremely well. Even boys that come through and don't make it for the Aston Villa first team, which is what we all want them to do, but they're all not going to do that, then they go on and play elsewhere. And I think the academy has been excellent.
Every time a player comes through the academy and plays in your first team, it's obviously saving the club a hell of a lot of money, which is important in this day and age where the transfer fees for players now are almost spiralling out of control in many ways. We wouldn't like to have to try and buy somebody of Gareth Barry's quality, because it would be very, very extortionate, the price that you'd have to pay.
I think when you see young players at school with ability and who are keen to do well and have got the potential, you're always concerned that they go to a club where they can settle in well and do well. And I think the fact that Gareth went from playing for the school, his last game for the school I think was in May '97, and then literally a year later he's playing for Villa first team, suggests that the setup was really good.
I mean, they bring these lads in at an early age, and I think it's good. I think players should progress from an early age, and I think it's where they get their experience from.
It didn't matter what sort of player you were, you knew your place in you were a team. It didn't matter how good if you didn't fit into the team, it wouldn't matter, and that was sort of the emphasis they put on it. And even the boys that have come through now, the ones that have come through more recently, I think they're all team players, and I think that was sort of drilled into you from a very, very early age.
Throughout the whole youth setup, right from the schoolboys, it's a great setup, and the coaches, as I said, deserve a lot of credit. It's got a great reputation throughout the country, the Villa Academy, and as you say, the players keep getting turned out into the first team. So parents and other people like that will want their kids coming to Aston Villa. Then they know they'll be getting the right sort of football education.
They want to succeed, and more importantly, they want the players to succeed. And I think that comes through in their coaching, and that comes through in their management, and I'm obviously very pleased with it.
Last year, the club invested a large amount of money to create facilities that match the ambition and quality that the club produce, from grassroots to the first team and international level. Bodymore Heath was redeveloped, and the new training facilities gave the club the foundation to move on to the next level.
The facilities are just fantastic, and anyone who has come up here could not fail to be impressed with them. They're absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, that's just took the whole setup to another level. It's a fantastic training facility. As soon as you arrive and see the massive building of Aston Villa Football Club, it's a great place to work. So any youngsters coming training at Aston Villa will be sort of in awe of the place, and as you say, it can only help their improvement of the game.
It's a wonderful facility. It can always help because you get more pitches, better quality in everything that you do. The facilities with the swimming pool for recovery, the kitchens, this sort of thing is tremendous. But the one thing being is that the player still has to have the talent and the desire to become a footballer. Most of the academies now, or most of the Premier League clubs, have got tremendous facilities. That doesn't mean to say that you will actually get players through, so you have to have the players, they have to have the desire, and hopefully they get the right coach, and I think that's why a lot of them come through at Aston Villa.
It's nice to see coming back to shiny new Bodymore Heath training ground, that all the facilities are there for the next generation of Gareth Barrys.
At the end of his first professional season, Gareth got his chance in the first team and had made a decent impact. But during the summer, the club moved to sign David Unsworth to create competition for the central defensive position, where Gareth had been deployed at the end of the previous campaign. However, in a bizarre twist, Unsworth was sold to Everton without even playing a game, and Gareth had a chance to stake a claim for a first-team place alongside Hugo Ahiog and Gareth Southgate.
His first game was at Wickham, David Unsworth, and then I remember him coming in for a couple of days of training. He drove down from Merseyside, obviously hadn't bought anywhere in Birmingham, and the next thing he was signing for Everton again. So I think again, timing in football is paramount, and I think that without a doubt that enabled John Gregory to look at the staff he had and said, right, let's give Gareth a go, let's push him forward and stick him in the first team squad, and that's what he did.
I heard it was a lot to do with his wife, to be honest. I think she wanted to stay up north and didn't want to move down to the Midlands. But it might have been that, or it might have been the seeing this youngster coming through. He was a bit frightened about his place, but yeah, he wasn't there for long. But yeah, I heard it was a lot to do with his old air indoors.
That was a lucky break for myself. If David Unsworth would have signed, I wouldn't have played that first game of the season at Everton, and I wouldn't have gone on to play virtually every game that year. So it was a lucky break for me.
The ball finds its way eventually across to Gareth Barry, just below where we are.
Things were really looking good at that time. Like I say, Gareth had come into the team and was doing really well. But it was good to see that. I think the team spirit was second to none then as well. All English lads together, and we watched each other's backs, and we had a great time at that time.
Coaching with a chance, brilliant finish, and suddenly Aston Villa will be feeling they're not going to miss Dwight York, or even at that moment Stan Collymore.
They were lucky, some of the younger players, to have players like myself that had made mistakes publicly, privately, that they could have a little chat with and learn from.
Playing alongside on the left of Gareth Southgate, was, as you say, is the perfect role model on and off the pitch. So I learned a lot from him, and he helped you through games. And we had Alan Wright, who was very experienced, playing left wing back. So two experienced players either side of you. It helped me through a lot of the games, and
probably didn't do me any favours, because I always felt like Gareth was the norm. So like there was times, I remember even like 17, 18, I was travelling with the first team, but thinking I wasn't doing that well. But now you look back and you think, well, he wasn't the norm. Do you know what I mean? He was an exception to the rule. But obviously at the time you're thinking, oh, why aren't I playing? He's playing every week.
Barry, Newcastle shaping up defensively, and Villa at least getting it to Merson. What a shot that is! What a goal for Aston Villa in a real time of need.
To go all them games unbeaten in the Premier League, it was I think we broke some sort of record at that time. So it was, I'd been thrown into the team and we were doing so well. It was a case of living out this Premier League is pretty easy, but as things don't go smoothly, you learn a lot more. So the start was sort of perfect for me, and it gave me a lot of confidence.
You always felt that he did play, I think, a few times at the back when Leicester played Aston Villa, and you always felt that he was very comfortable with the ball. That sometimes you would want to maybe go and harass centre halves and put them under pressure. But you always felt with Gareth that he would invite that, you know, that he wouldn't be concerned about it, and that he would be able to play himself out of trouble.
Oh, that's poor! And Barry has returned it with interest. Hits without looking.
Gareth had established himself as a first-team regular, and the following season was one to remember. The club enjoyed 2 cup runs that saw them reach the semi-final of the League Cup and a place at Wembley in the last ever FA Cup final at the Old Stadium.
My wife's family down from Stoke with the brothers, wives. It was a big turnout for the day.
It was great to have a player from the school and a Hastings boy playing in the cup final. It enabled us to really identify, I think, with him and realise just what he'd achieved in such a short space of time.
George Way was World Football of the Year not long before, and obviously Zoe was a Chelsea legend, so it was always up against it, and Chelsea were favourites, but that's sort of probably not one of the most exciting FA Cup finals, but as you say, it was a mistake in the end from us that led them to a scrappy goal, really, so it was disappointing to miss out.
Just 19, Gareth Barry.
It was disappointing because when you get to a cup final, a major cup final, you want to perform on the day, and we just didn't, and you know, disappointed the fans and everybody. So.
Gianfranco Zola. James slots it and it's in! No. Or is it? It has been given. And Chelsea have gone in front.
It's not really now when you look back, I think how lucky you are to have played in a cup final and sort of how close you were to winning it. So yeah, it was obviously a disappointing day, but a great experience to have played in one, and that gives you that great taste that you do eventually want to try and win the FA Cup. So hopefully it's not too far away.
My boy playing at Wembley, it was a great occasion.
Gareth Barry, all the right foot. Oh, it's 2. Gareth Barry with his first ever away goal for Aston Villa. Only cleared as far as Hitzelsberger, and Barry! And Barry, 3-0. Gareth Barry is the scorer.
This is Dublin looking for Barry. It's fallen kindly for Barry, great chance! And it's a superb start for Aston Villa. It's Gareth Barry.
Cup final disappointment was soon forgotten as Gareth was given the break he both craved and deserved. Aged just 19, the Villa hero became an England international footballer. Gareth coming on for his debut against the Ukraine on the 31st of May 2000.
Gareth was obviously playing very well at the time, and and if you're playing as well as he was, he deserved the opportunity.
Certainly towards the end, everything was sort of coming together. I've been in England squads throughout the last few months of that season. Sort of been on the bench and getting a taste for it, but when my debut came, it was a great feeling to step out at the old Wembley, where so many things have happened for English football and so many great players have played. To represent my country there was a great feeling.
And it's a first cap for Gareth Barry of Aston Villa, who is still only 19.
I think it was a great boost for the whole football club, because obviously at the time we had people like Gareth Southgate and himself and that sort of thing. We had other internationals like Dwight York from other places, but I think he was the first real one to have come sort of through the academy that we could say, yeah, we've helped him along the way to get to that position.
Tremendous for all the coaches at Brighton, to see Gareth, well, not only playing for Aston Villa, but obviously the progression to England as well was terrific. And again, it was a case of left-sided, left-footed players. Obviously, he got his chance. He took his chance. and played at an early age for England.
I'm not sure, I think Graham Lasso might have picked up an injury, so I went to left back. But we're playing 4-4-2. Obviously, we're playing a different formation for Aston Villa, but Kevin Keegan, he saw me as being able to do a job at left back and a bit of competition for the experienced players in there, and I replaced Graham Lasso, so I was quite comfortable playing there.
It was a winning start to his international career, and he didn't have to wait too long for his first full cap. Gareth was installed in the England first team to face newly crowned European champions France. This result, though, was followed by England's defeat to Germany in the final game at Wembley. Gareth came on as a second-half substitute, but the damage was done and was followed by the shocked resignation of Kevin Keegan as England manager.
The last FA Cup final and sort of the last England game, so to feature in both of them, it was sort of a nice thing to have against your name. But obviously, when you look at the results and things that went on, it was a disappointment with it as well. You've just finished a game, so you're not expecting it to happen straight away there. But that's sort of his character, Kevin Keegan. Everyone knows what he's like, and he'd made his mind up there and then, so there was no point in holding on to it. He let the players know straight away in the dressing room, and then obviously told the rest of the nation he was going to resign. So it was a strange feeling being in that dressing room after.
Unknown to Gareth, Keegan's removal as manager would put a hold on his international progress. Although he was installed at left back for Peter Taylor's only game in temporary charge of the national team, the hiring of Swede Sven-Göran Eriksson left Gareth in the international wilderness.
Gareth Barry has admitted Sven-Göran Eriksson has destroyed his hopes of an England recall. The Aston Villa midfielder...
I can remember I was actually up in Edinburgh walking along a little family holiday, and I got the call from Gareth basically saying, "No, I'm not in." And going, "What do you mean you're not in? He's not..." Because he'd started the last few games for England prior to that, and I was saying, "Well, how do you know you're not in? How do you know you're not going to be in the team?" He said, "No, I'm not in the squad at all." I was going, I couldn't quite comprehend that, because it just seemed it was a big sort of snub, I suppose, to go from starting for England to not even being in the 22. And I think Gareth wasn't sure about that, how to cope with it. It was a bit of a jolt out of the blue.
I was sort of still at that young age where I thought I've got an England career ahead of me here. Obviously, as I know now, things change in football and different opinions, etc., etc. But from being heavily involved in the England squads for the last two years or so, I thought I'll be worth a look at least in the squad. But when I found out the news that I wasn't even in the squad, it was a big disappointment, and probably one of the biggest disappointments in my career.
Externally, he wouldn't probably show his disappointment, but I think he's the kind of guy that, behind closed doors, he'd be pretty disappointed. But I think the main thing was that he took that disappointment on board, and he thought, I'm gonna get back in this England squad, and I'm gonna work hard and play well for my club every week, and get back in.
And not to be in the squad was sort of a big setback, and it gets you thinking, it's going to be a hard way back here. But I think it was important that I sort of got my head down and tried to work hard for Villa. That's where you get your praise and where you get your call-ups for England. So it took a few months to sink in, really. But then I thought, right, I'll try and do it for Aston Villa.
You think when Sven-Göran Eriksson came in, every other England manager since then had him involved quite regularly. And that's football. If one manager comes in, one person picks a team. If they don't fancy him, for some reason he didn't fancy Gareth at all. No, it seems stupid to me.
I was here as his manager during that stage when in fact he was always being announced in the squad or on the fringe but never being called up. And I think it does eat away at you eventually, that kind of thing. But he stuck at it, didn't complain, and he's got his just rewards now.
departure as fan as England boss in 2006 coincided with a number of key events. Villa installed Martin O'Neill as manager, who in turn handed the club captaincy to Gareth. He also moved Gareth into central midfield, a position that many thought to be his best.
He gave everyone a big lift. He's a big name for a manager to coming into Aston Villa at the time. There was a bit of doom and gloom around the club, and the fans weren't sure what was happening. But he come in and lifted the whole club, and certainly myself. He made me captain straight away. That in itself gave me a big lift and a big confidence boost, and just the whole team. He got the boys working from him, and everyone's fighting for him.
I think that when Martin came into the club, he would have had a good look around at the playing squad, wanted to bring one or two of his own players in, but his track record in terms of bringing the best out of players is second to none. And all Gareth needed, I'm sure, he'd been at the club quite a long time, and it would have been natural maybe if he'd have thought, well, I've gone a little bit stale, is it time to move on? And maybe other clubs were interested. But as soon as Martin came in, I think I remember texting Gareth and saying, he's top man, you'll love working with him. And there's no coincidence that Gareth, skipper the club are doing very well, they're going in the right direction in the Premier League. And again, Gareth's back in the England squad and playing well.
But I just think he's gone out and played the game the way he's always wanted to play the game. He goes and does his job, he scores goals, he helps other people. He's just, to me, he's the ultimate professional, what he tries to do. It's the same in training, and he's a great example for other people to do it. And I think, obviously, he'd had one or two sort of knockdowns by the previous manager, and Martin's sort of come in straight away, seen that he was probably the right man for the job, pushed him to become a better player.
One stage I thought he was almost certain to leave the club at one stage, but I think Martin O'Neill coming here has not only steadied the ship, it's given them ambition and aims to go for, which very much suits Gareth.
Just when Aston Villa fans thought life couldn't get any worse, the future of club skipper Gareth Barry has suddenly...
I was not sure about my future, whether it would be here or not, but after a few conversations with the manager, the decision was made. So thankfully now it was the right one. I'm happy I did stay here.
I know while you look at him from afar, and this is probably what I didn't think, that Gareth Barry's a reasonably, I'm going to say a reasonably good, a really good player, then you find out that he's much better than that, and he's got tons of ability, and what's more, he's got a big heart. He's as brave as they come, and and I think he's been exceptional. There's no question of that.
I think it's nice if you have a player who's representing his country, who's English and is also captain of your side, that's an English club.
What Martin O'Neill seems to get out of his players is fantastic, really. He seems to inspire people, and I certainly think he's inspired Gareth, and he's given that belief back. Or maybe he didn't have for a while, but and he's really on top of his game now.
He's not a captain in the John Terry sort of mould, who's the old captain, courageous and cheering everybody on and shouting and screaming. But I think he's more of a sort of lead by example, and that's what he'll do on the pitch. He'll be demanding of his other players, but he'll be demanding of himself. But I think he leads by example off the pitch as well, in the way that he conducts himself and the role that he'll sort of, I think he's a good one for young players to look at Gareth. The young academy lads at Villa can look up to Gareth and say, yeah, that's how I want to be. You can see how doing things the right way, conducting yourself in a professional manner around people, can give you the respect.
He is by nature quiet, and so he's leading by example as much as anything else. But what an example to show, and that's that's not bad. He could. There's no doubt that he himself has said that sometimes he could be a bit more vocal on the pitch, but that will come, and that will. Gareth is what he is, and I'm really happy with that.
That time we had another goal, a
2.5 minutes to play.
Gareth Barry for Villa. Against the run of play, but it counts.
Barry looking for Solano. And Barry has equalised!
It's 2-0, and it's surely the game won for Aston Villa.
Top draw penalty. Top draw performance from Gareth Barry as well. Does he slam it, place it?
He goes the same way. The result is the same.
Gareth Barry, well, he just gets on with it. Another fantastic penalty.
Gareth Barry to take it for Aston Villa. Puts them back in business, 3-1.
Stephen Davis here. Looks to feed Solano. Oh, and it's going to fall for Gareth Barry, and Villa score. And their one real quality move of the afternoon brings them reward.
2007 was Gareth's year. He established himself in the centre of midfield for Villa, scoring numerous goals and leading by example as Villa made big strides towards stability and becoming European challengers. He also broke back into the England team after a 4-year absence, cementing a place in the centre of midfield and making himself virtually undroppable.
Gareth Barry saying, "I told you so" today. Villa skipper's outstanding displays for England have called into
question. I wasn't going down there really expecting to play much of a part. It's always nice to be involved in England squads, but to get the nod in the starting 11 the first game, it was great, and the game went well. And the second game was going to be even a bigger test for myself. So to come out of it feeling very strong and on the back of two great results was perfect really.
He's come back, but he never should have been out in the first place. Jimmy just, like when he was, like the games against Israel and Russia and the game at Wembley when everyone's raving about him, like that start, the way he's playing, that's comfortable. If people give him time and let him pass balls, he'll do that as well as anyone in the country. And I think people who know football know that. I don't think, like if you've gone to Villa, I don't think they're surprised Martin O'Neill, I don't think they're surprised Kevin McDonald, Tony McAndrew, Sid Cowans, anybody who knows him would have just expected him to perform the way he did perform.
I thought the relationship with him and Gerrard in that midfield role was the final solution. Because I'm one of those who don't believe Lampard and Gerrard can play together. They're too similar. But Gareth in a holding role I thought was absolutely superb.
One, he never gave up on the possibility of another England call-up, and the fact is that his own performances must have merited him being called up. So yeah, great credit to him.
For the England games he played, and he did play well, I was astonished, playing with the great footballers of this country.
Ferdinand going towards the near post. Richards! Micah Richards has made it 3-0.
I felt so relieved and happy that I featured in a big England game and sort of played very well. So sort of driving home after the game, it was a great feeling for myself to sort of achieve something which I always felt I could do. So it was great to be back involved and actually starting games.
He seems to be firmly entrenched now in the England setup, and Capello has seen no reason now to change things around. He was in the starting lineup, and that's great. He would be the very first one to admit that that the England setup, regardless of the midfield of England, regardless of whether the team plays well or not, has some very, very talented individual players. And but he obviously will be very, very pleased, and to be involved with England now at this stage, and to believe you belong there, I think is probably just about everything.
Yeah, there would have been a lot of players like myself, sort of on the edge, wondering whether your face is going to fit, whether you're playing well enough, and whether the New England manager is going to rate you. It was not worrying, but you're sort of on edge, wondering if you're going to be involved. So it was a big relief really to have made the squad. Just the initial 30 really. It was great to be in that, but to make the 23 and to start the game, it was a another big boost for myself.
I'm on the outside looking in, and one of the jobs I have, which I'm very fortunate, the international games, he's played very, very well. In that central midfield role, he has done well.
Gareth Barry with a chance to make it 5-3. He does! Work by Barros again. Oh, and it's struck home beautifully by Gareth Barry. Over gets round his man, squares in, it's a tap in, and Aston Villa through Gareth Barry.
Gareth Barry, stepping forward with great purpose here. Still Barry, might go all the way, and he has a divine deflection.
Lacan, Angel. Barry Hughes on the overlap, plenty of targets in the centre, amongst them Gareth Barry, who ties it up at 1-1.
And this is Angel, neat touch to James Milner. Layoff is by Davis, shot by Barry, Villa 1-0 up.
In his career, Gareth has played in a number of positions, starting in central defence, moving to left back, then being pushed into left midfield, and finally finding a regular game at the heart of both the Villa and the England team. All the while, he showed his versatility and usefulness to the team by reverting back to positions along the way. But what is his best position?
From probably the early age, Gareth would play in a wide left position. In a 4-4-2, he would play a wide left. But as we do at the Centre of Excellence, they would vary their positions. So he would have, say, part of a game at left midfield and then might go to left back.
When Gareth was at school, he started off as a midfield player, really as an attacking midfield player, and he played a lot in that position. I mean, he was such a good footballer that obviously you wanted him to be having as big an influence as possible on the game, and in midfield he had that opportunity. He scored a lot of goals when he was at Parker as well. I remember him scoring a hat-trick in the national competition, and he played obviously for the school first 11 as an under-16. So we used him pretty much as an attacking midfield player.
I think talking to Tony McAndrew and Kevin McDonald, Gareth when he first came as a midfield player, and they started to use him as a centre half, developed him there and did a fair bit of work with him there. And I was saying a fair bit of work, I think Gareth would have been one of those players that just took to it like a duck to water. I mean, he's just a natural, really.
And it was Tony McAndrew that sort of said that he's 6 foot, he's good in the air. There's no reason why he can't be a footballer that plays at the back. And I remember we had a youth team game, and the first time they put him there, and he was like outstanding.
Well dealt with by Gareth Barry, who plays it up into the Leeds half. Joachim's giving chase. Joachim's still giving chase. No free kick on, and it's there! Julian Joachim puts Villa into the lead, and Nigel Martin.
Everyone's got different opinions, and even now people still have one, certainly on myself. But yeah, it was just a case of, right, I think you can do a job there for the team, and I was happy enough to do it. It wasn't, I never really thought about it too much, and as you say, the only time it was talked about was when people were seeing my exclusion from the England squad. You know, I was always talked about getting back in, but it took so long that people sort of pinpointed out that I was playing too many positions, and it was affecting my England chances.
I felt at one stage his best position probably would have been as one of 3 at the back as a left centre back, because I felt that coming onto the ball, seeing play in front of him, he was very good. Where play went round about him and got in behind him now and again, he wasn't experienced enough at times to cope with that.
As a centre half, he played the role very well and was very accomplished there, but as a centre midfield player, he's got everything you need to be a centre midfield player. He can get box to box, he can head it, he can tackle, score your goals, and he's got a fantastic range of passing as well.
I had too much skill to play centre back, but and he wasn't the biggest either when he first came into the team, but he took it all in his stride, and there was, he's a pretty cool character as well, Gareth, and doesn't let anything faze him, never seems flustered, and it's good attributes to have.
We actually eventually saw him playing as a central left-sided midfield player once he'd learnt about how to handle play both in front of him and behind him. I remember, I think we played a friendly game against Walsall, pre-season friendly game up at Bodymore Heath, And I put him in there, and he didn't handle it actually as well as I thought he would. And so what interests me now is to see with Martin, to see the position that he's playing, because with the experience he's got now and his knowledge of the game, I would say that's his best position.
I think that if you were to ask the normal man in the street about Gareth's role at international level, they would say that he's probably a holding midfield player. Now, I'm never sure that that's the case, because I see him playing in a 4-4-2 situation with him. I see him playing in a 4-4-3-3, call it what you want, but at the end of it all, he's capable of getting forward.
It's always difficult when you're in the England squad, because you know, England managers like players that play in certain positions and household names that they know where they're going to play. You know that David Beckham's going to play on the right-hand side, Michael Owen is a central striker, John Terry is a central defender. I think that what we're uncomfortable with in this country, and it's to our detriment really, is players that have the ability to play in 2 or 3 different positions, which Gareth has, whether it be left back, left central defender as you say, or latterly left midfield. I think that left midfield is Gareth's best position, simply because it gives him an option of getting back. He covers round very well. He doesn't give the ball away, and it gives him, he's in within touching distance of the forward positions, getting crosses in, getting shots on target. And I think that, in all honesty, because he dotted around in 2 or 3 different positions at Villa, sadly, you know, England managers gone by like players that are in specific holes.
Sometimes it can be detrimental to be a utility player, which perhaps Gareth at times became sort of, you know, judged as. But I think, you know, all he's tried to do is play as well as he can, whatever position he's been in at Aston Villa. But there's probably, I mean, I don't know the stats, you know, but I can't imagine there's too many players that have done that have played centre back and left back and central midfield for their country.
Perhaps the problems Gareth's had is his versatility, and that he has been effective playing as a centre back and as a full back or a wide player, as well as in the centre midfield. And I think clearly Martin O'Neill's perceived that as being his best position. I think the year Gareth's had would suggest that that is a position where he can thrive.
I mean, this holding role's been invented in the English game now, isn't it? I know a lot of foreign teams play with the holding midfield player, but no, I think it's tailor-made for Gareth. You know, he's a good ball player. He can see a pass, and you know, he never gives the ball away, which is a great attribute for a footballer.
If you want the best from Gareth Barry, that is where he should play. And I think as a player, I mean, I've not spoken to him regarding which position he prefers, but I'm certain, knowing him as a schoolboy and where he wanted to play, I think that's his best position, in my opinion.
You can, you know, he's that good a player that you can play anywhere. I think, you know, he's played left centre half, he's played left back, left wing, centre midfield. He can play in all those positions just because he's a good footballer.
When he gets older, he could easily go back and go and play left back, or go and play centre half or sweeper it, like maybe when he's 34, 35 and he might play in the Championship or whatever. I think he's just a good footballer. He's an intelligent footballer. He knows where he should be in whatever position he plays, but obviously at the moment he's a good athlete, he's good on the ball, and so centre midfield probably suits him best.
Personally, after seeing him play central midfield, I think that's his position, I must say, you know, but certainly he's experienced several positions, but I can see him being a central midfielder because he reads the game so well.
I think Gareth looks on himself as a central midfield player and probably always has done. But if he's prepared to put himself out, because there are some players that wouldn't play unless they're playing in the right position. Gareth's shown over the years that he's been here and with, you know, England, is that wherever you play him, he will play at the best of his ability, and the best of his ability is probably better than most of the players around.
Goal against Tottenham Hotspur last year was just extraordinary.
Gareth Barry. Definitely the best of my career.
Gareth Barry all the way. Oh, what a strike! Absolutely player in their side. Barry, oh! Now that is a penalty, and Aston Villa lead.
Gareth Barry. And Aston Villa lead in first half stoppage time.
Barry scores straight down the middle.
Can he find the net and put Villa on terms? He certainly can. And Aston Villa will go into the break level.
Now James must try and prevent Gareth Barry from putting Villa ahead from the spot. It's blasted in again, and Aston Villa have taken the lead at Fratton Park. Here's Gareth Barry, could make it interesting if he can put it in, and he can.
Barry with a chance to put Villa ahead. And he takes it! Gareth Barry scores!
On the 2nd of May, Villa fans celebrate 10 years of Gareth Barry, a loyal servant for the club and an unquestionable talisman. The fans' favourite player and a true Claret and Blue hero.
You would have to say at this moment in time, Gareth Barry coming through the academy from 16 years old would be the biggest success. I was lucky enough to, when he came on trial, to do some training, and he was involved in the training session then, and from the first day I saw him. I know it's an old cliche because everybody says that, but he was outstanding in training with youth players and even a one or two reserves.
At the moment, he's one of the top players in the Premiership, isn't he? He was almost voted the England Player of the Year last year, had a terrific return to the England team, and he seems to be playing extremely well for Villa, so he's right up with their very best, I think.
The thing with Gareth is it's his consistency of performance. You know, even if he's had not such a good game, it's never been a bad game. You know, he never goes below that level where you say, what a horrible game he's had. Do you know what I mean? Is he really worth his place in the side? You never actually say that. He may not have such a good game, but he never has a shocker.
I think it's an instant impact with Gareth. I think as soon as you see him train, as soon as you see him play, and as I say, the reading of the game, I think it wouldn't have taken Martin O'Neill long to realise, you know, what a player he's got in Gareth Barry.
All good players are particularly easy to manage, you know, because they're aware of their job for a start, and you know, and they know themselves that training can be so enjoyable if you love your job, and you just get that strong impression with him that he's been in love with the job now for about 10 odd years.
It's Barry against Freelaw, and it's Barry that wins the contest. Barry scores! It's Barry against Petacek. It's 4-4 at Stamford Bridge. Barry against Schwarzer, sent him the wrong way, 1-1. Skips past the challenge from Kevin Davis. Nicely chipped in, Gareth Barry! It's there, it's 1-0 to Aston Villa. Gareth Barry's 6th goal of the season. Here's Ashley Young. With a chance, deflection, it's 3-0. Gareth Barry gets his 2nd of the afternoon.
What about the players he's played with? If he could pick his all-time 11 that he's played with for Villa, just who would make the starting lineup?
In goal, I think would be David James. You know, he's a great athlete. He's probably the best all-round goalie there is in terms of coming for crosses, shot stopping. Even now, he's been left Villa a long time. He's still in great shape and still improving. And nearly 40, so it shows what a great sportsman. Right back I would go with Mark Delaney. Come through at 24 and he'd only been in the game really 2 or 3 years, so he was a late developer, but come from Cardiff and as you say, it's consistently good for us, and it's just fortunate he's got to retire early for injury. We've had a good few years ahead of him. Left back I would go with Alan Wright. He's always somebody that never got too much praise, but always done a consistent job. I played a lot of games just inside him, and so easy to give the ball to. He's always on show and always willing to help me out, especially as I come into the team at a young age. So he didn't get too much praise, but he always done a great job.
Little. Charles, good cross, great cross. Over the head of Milosevic, right! Oh, terrific goal! What a goal by Alan Wright! It comes midway through the first half. Milosevic just couldn't reach the ball. Wright teed it up for himself. And how about that for a spanking shot to give Aston Villa the lead? Look at the time Wright had here. He got completely over the ball and drove it completely wide of Gary Walsh.
Gareth Southgate, as I said, he was one person who helped me who I'd pick out. But his all-round games, top class, and that's why he played so many games for England. This season, Martin's proved to everyone what a top player he was and why he played for AC Milan, because not only has he scored a lot of goals for a centre-half, but his performances this year have been at a top level consistently.
Well, he's got half a dozen to aim for. Larsson's in there, and Larsson equalises. It's 3-3 at the bridge. Martin Larsson, cometh the hour, cometh the man. His 4th goal of the season. Perfect delivery by Ashley Young. The foot out from Martin Larsson, and no one there at all. And Petacek, well, he's just watching and seeing it fly into the back of the net. Splendid delivery.
Centre field, I've gone from a big Villa Park legend, Holton, love him, that's Ian Taylor. I saw Tails finish his career at Aston Villa, so it was great to have played with him, because I know how much the fans think of him. So with Tails, he's a great engine and got his fair share of goals from central midfield.
Joachim. Now Alan Wright. Lots of bodies forward for him. Taylor with a header! And Taylor with a goal! Aston Villa have dominated the early stages, but it looked as though they weren't going to be able to break through. But again, from a ball whipped inside the penalty area, Tottenham were caught and Tottenham were punished. Again, from a ball inside the penalty area, Tottenham looked as though they couldn't cope. Wright's delivery finding Taylor, and Ian Taylor's 3rd goal of the season gives Villa the advantage.
Paul Merson, I'd play just ahead of him. He played his best football, I think. He had a great career at Arsenal, but training with Merce for 2-3 years and watching him play, what he could do on the football pitch sometimes was brilliant. And I think if you speak to a lot of Aston Villa fans, they'll tell Merce played his best football at Aston Villa.
Oh, what a chip! It's a goal! It's a goal by Merson in the last minute! Out of nothing! Villa look to have stolen it!
ground has gone silent. Merson looked up, knew exactly what he was doing. Gerrard was off his goal line. Utter genius from Merson. Not the first time he's done that. What a finish. And what a theft.
Left midfield, I've gone for another player playing with me at the moment, Ashley Young. He's only been at the club for just over a year now, but it took a while to settle in. But this year he's proved everyone what a great buy, and even close to 10 million, what a snip he is. No, he's not been here that long. I think in recent years he's going to get even better, so I'll choose Ashley.
Gareth Barry leaves it for Young, and what a brilliant equaliser! Absolutely fantastic, mesmeric from Ashley Young, absolutely superb. His third goal of the season, his first since the 4-0 win at Ewood in November. It's Aston Villa 1, Blackburn Rovers 1.
Right side, I've gone for my old roommate Lee Hendry. He's somebody who helped me again. I was a young player, I roomed with him, and he's sort of showed me the ropes, if you like. But no, the Villa fans loved him. He always gave 100%. He was in and out of the team for a number of years, but as you say, he spent 15, 16 years at the club, so he was a bit of a legend.
Hendry! Oh! Special! This boy is in such a run of form from the middle of the park, scoring goals. What a fantastic goal. I saw him score a lovely goal last week, but Angel's build-up play in this and the touch is first class.
I played with Dion for 5 years. He was another one the fans loved, and always gave you 100%. He was great vocally too, and he was another one that helps the younger players, and as you say, he got a number of goals too for Villa.
Nice ball with Carboni. Now Dublin, and that's the equaliser for Aston Villa. It looked like it was coming in the last 5 minutes, and it was Dion Dublin who scored so often in these games against Spurs. A tremendous ball in from Carboni, and almost a precision cross from the little Italian.
I didn't play that many games with Dwight, probably 5 or 6, but I think they were enough, and what I've seen of previous games of what he'd done at Aston Villa, his goal scoring record was phenomenal, so I put Dwight.
Waiting for it. Hollymore getting up, and York, that's brilliant! That is sensational stuff from Dwight York. Totally embarrassed Leeds.
I'd go with Martin O'Neill, not just because he's here at the moment, but for the effect he's had on my career.